I'm Marsya, and I'll be presenting my self evaluation and reflection for an app I redesigned called Superfan. This task is about reflecting on my previous design from App Design 1 to understand what worked, what didn't, and what I can do to further improve my design. This is just a short overview of Superfan. So, Superfan is basically a social music app that connects users through their listening data. The goal is to make listening to music feel more social and personal. So I decided to focus on three main screens that represent the app the most, that I feel represents the app the most, which are artist community, weekly vibe recap, and the group community. The first MVP is the artist community screen. So on the left, you could see the original app design, and on the right, you could see my redesign from app design 1. So the original Superfan app's artist community was very simple. It only showed a basic list of artists who had joined the platform and nothing else. So I assumed that it wasn't fully developed yet. So I decided to improve this by further developing the section into something more functional and what I thought would strengthen the artist and fan connections. When I compared my self reflection with the AI feedback from Design Lens and the chatbot, we both agreed on a few key points. The main strengths were that the app has a clear purpose, a strong focus on music communities, and easy navigation. However, we also shared similar opinions on the areas that need improvement, like the visual clutter caused by too many artists on one screen and the hidden event information on the artist profile. This makes it harder for fans to join or connect with their favorite artists, even though events are one of the most exciting parts of the app. The AI suggested increasing the size of text and images to improve clarity, highlighting important elements, and using a brighter color palette to make the design feel more lively. This is my final refinement for the artist community screen, along with the list of refinements. I'll get into it in the next slide with a side by side comparison. For my solution, I decided to combine the recommended artists and join community section into tabs instead of keeping them all on one page. This helps to reduce the clutter and I feel makes the layout a lot cleaner. I also reduced the number of artists shown to make the page easier to read and gave each artist a proper card layout without their names and genres instead of just their pictures. There's also a show more option now, so users can explore further without getting overwhelmed. I made the artist community title bigger and placed it inside the page instead of on the HUD, so users clearly know which section they're on. I also added a short tagline to explain its purpose and used a background element to separate each section better. On the artist profile page, I made the artist header larger to highlight their profile and added a verified badge along with a short bio. The AI also mentioned the lack of clear hierarchy for the number of community listeners, so I added an orange bar to make that section stand out a lot more. So the original All tab only showed the artist's top songs. After reevaluating, I realized that upcoming shows and personal info are just as important, so I added their social media links, upcoming shows, and merchandise to the main profile screen to make it more complete. For navigation, I adjusted the navigation bar layout at the bottom. I applied this to all updated refinements because I felt like it was an overall improvement. What I did was I separated groups and friends into different features, which it wasn't initially because friends was part of the group feature. And I moved the messaging feature icon to the top right to make it more similar to Instagram so that it feels more familiar and user friendly. This is the second MVP feature, which is the weekly vibes recap screen, which I feel is the main feature of the app. In the original version of Superfan, it was just a small section on the homepage, and when you clicked it, a small recap card would pop up. I felt like that wasn't appealing enough, especially since it's supposed to be one of the main highlights of the app. It didn't really grab attention or feel important, so in my app design 1 version, I decided to give this feature more focus by turning it into its own separate section that users can navigate to directly. Both the AI and I agreed that this version feels much more engaging and interactive compared to the original app. However, we also pointed out the weak contrast and the overuse of certain elements in the design. This is my refined version of the weekly vibes recap screen. First off, I realized that the scrolling layout might be a bit overwhelming for users since they would have to keep scrolling through a very long page. To make it more efficient, I changed the layout so users can tap left or right to go through their weekly recap instead, similar to Instagram stories or Spotify Wrapped. Now, users can swipe through different categories, starting with their mood and listening stats, followed by top artists and songs, and finally an option to create a personalized playlist based on their recap. I also adjusted the color palette. I kept the same colors but used them differently, which made the design look brighter and more balanced overall. I added a share button at the bottom of each page so users can choose which specific category they want to share, giving them more flexibility and interactivity. Lastly, I decided to remove the countdown timer from the screen and move it to the homepage since that's where users usually navigate the most. I felt it made more sense for the update reminder to appear there instead. Moving on to the last MVP feature, this is the original group feature on Superfan, and beside it is my redesigned version from App Design 1. I felt that in the original app, Superfan didn't really make good use of its navigation bar, but instead, most features were just placed on the homepage. Because of that, the group section felt like an extra feature instead of an important part of the app. Since Superfan is meant to be a social music app, I wanted to redesign the screen to give it more importance. My goal was to make it feel more personal and community driven so users can interact more with their friends and really feel part of the music sharing space. Both the AI and I agreed that the page flow for the group feature was logical and the gamification through group awards made it more engaging and fun. However, we also noticed that this was the only interactive element, which makes the social aspect quite limited. Our shared solutions were to add more interactive social features, improve contrast and hierarchy, and simplify the layout for smoother scrolling. This is the final refined group screens. I will be explaining the list of refinements in the next slide for a better comparison. So for my redesign, I first removed the add friends feature from the group page because I mentioned earlier that there should be a separate friends section in the app. Then I emphasized the create group button to make it stand out more. And on the main group screen, users can now see a list of groups that they're in, along with the group picture, number of members, and invites to join other groups. I also moved the page title inside each page to make it clearer which screen users are currently on. When users enter a group, they can access all the features. I added highlight rings around members' profile pictures so users can tap on them to view their friends' weekly recaps, which is similar to Instagram stories. They can also see what their friends are currently listening to, which is similar to Spotify's friend activity. Below that, users can view the top listeners and group awards for gamification. And finally, I added a new feature called Mixtape, where fans can create playlists together based on a specific vibe. This would make the experience feel more interactive and more community driven, which better fits the whole purpose of Superfan. These are the refinements on Figma. I've listed out what I did to enhance the MVP features and a side-by-side comparison with the redesigned app from App Design 1. Thank you.